Millie Uland's personal history. Millie was born in 1922 and a lifelong resident of Greene County. She was married and was a homemaker for over 60 years and had a variety of hobbies, many of which had to do with homemaking and parenting her 4 daughters. When her daughters left home, she added historical research of the community and the people in it to her interests. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, she had begun to collect information about the community of Park where she had lived most of her life. This, of course, included the church and cemetery of Walnut Grove. There was so much history in the community, and it was so much fun to find it. I tried to help her organize and type her findings, and Debbie taught her to type when Mother was in her 60s so that she could do more herself. In the cemetery, she found that people, even after death, wished to cling to their families. At Walnut Grove, just because a person didn't have the same last name as the others near where they were buried didn't mean it wasn't an aunt, an in-law, or other relative. And many referenced themselves as related to someone in a near burial ground. So she began visiting these other burial grounds surrounding Walnut Grove and researching them as well as listing all burials she could find there. I could see Mother was really serious about this task and encouraged her to type it up and organize it. However, we could find no prototype printed book for the kind of information she had accumulated, so we had to create our own format for Walnut Grove and the 40 cemeteries that made up her data. I guess it was good fortune that I had been an English journalism major in college, and we set up our own way of putting the info together. In each of the 40 supplemental cemeteries, we placed information at its beginning to tell of its size, location, who provided information about it, its condition, and the marker information. As well, many had pictures and special pieces of info. During this time, Mother also wondered what would happen if someone sued her over there being some information that someone would find not particularly truthful. As a result, in the title of her book to be, we placed the word folklore. It was about fact and folklore. So she never had any problem with anybody questioning anything. She used her own observations, interviews, military records, genealogy and family history, deeds, old newspapers, obituaries, a book of veterans of Greene County, biographical memoirs of Greene County, the history of Greene and Sullivan counties, Claude Lynch's book, Colleen, My Hometown, and Baber's early history of Greene County. Rather than leave space at the end of any part of the supplemental information, or anywhere else in the book for that matter, epitaphs from many of the cemeteries were printed in those spaces. And right now my sisters are going to read you some of their favorite epitaphs.
Remember, friend, as you walk by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, you soon will be. Prepare to die and follow me.
Okay, and then you guys will you can find something. As well, the book contained the town histories of Baltimore, Park, Furnace, the Viaduct, schools and school children. They were all included. We created the format so we could include anything Mother wanted. Finally, in 1986, after 5 long years, enough was completed that I encouraged Mother to allow it to be printed. This was before there were printing machines in your home and Xerox businesses on every corner. I knew a printing house in Monon, Indiana, near Monticello, where I lived, where I took high school items to be printed. So I took the book there. He set the type, made plates of the negatives and put it together, printing 500 copies. By this time, Dad knew what we were doing. And he said, since we'd spent so much time, he would pay for it. So on Memorial Day 1987, Mother had her 500 books for sale. She never advertised in the newspaper except once. However, all the people she had interviewed were curious, and once people read through it, other family members wanted one, and by the end of that year, she had sold her 500 copies and purchased 250 more. Within the next 2 years, she had ordered 235 more books. Then, since technology had moved forward, she switched to someplace closer, Kinko's in Bloomington. 135 copies later, she switched to Lamar's in Linton, where the book is presently being copied. Over the next 6 years, ending in 1986, she moved to another part of her research, other areas of Greene County. Also, during this time, she became a member of the Greene County Historical Society, where in the late 90s she became president. Knowing that the society always needed money, she supplied them with many of her researched booklets that they could sell. And at this point, we hand out this paper to everybody, and wait, Connie, shut her off. You can't, well, you're gonna have to wait. Oh, here, it's right here.
Very tasty.
Okay, I've had 20 of these made, so these will be handed out. Look at that. And on this sheet, everything that's highlighted in yellow is something that Mother has written and contributed to the society. She did more work than this, but this at least is a substantial list. Mother died in 2014, but in March before her death, she gave the printing rights for Gone to Be But Not Forgotten to the Greene County Historical Society to be a forever fundraiser. But Mother wasn't finished then, just because she died, and now I'll tell you the rest of the story. Last year, when my sisters met in November, I had just finished a task I took on for no apparent reason. I had updated the burials and information for Walnut Grove since 1986. Now, by information that I keep repeating here, I mean not just the name of the deceased, but the person's mother and father, spouse, and military status, so that all of this gives a general look into the person's life. And just as Mother had done in her book with all of the people she had mentioned, so now I continued using all of that information for this update. Annette Daniels helped greatly with this aspect. She looked up many of these things through obituaries and such. There had been 800 burials since 1986, and I thought that we might staple some brochures of this together for interested persons. Well, as we talked this November day, we also talked about one of Mother's final projects that was one of Virgil and Irene Davis's as well. The completion of a chain link fence around the north and west sides of the Walnut Grove Cemetery. Half the job had been completed, the north side, but although the vote at the cemetery meetings each year was always, yes, please complete it, there was never enough money to both mow and work on the fence. As we sat there commiserating, we suddenly had an aha moment. What if we updated this 1986 version of Gone But Not Forgotten with bits and pieces of information Mother had gathered and written with notes in her own original book? Then what if we added the 800 burials with information at the end of the book? It sounded like a good plan, and our result would be to make money for the fence that was only a dream at this time. I called Lamar and got a quote for 25 books, 50 books, and 100 books. They said they could easily print everything digitally if my sister Connie would send it over, and they could update the cover and the ends. They gave us really good prices. After January 1st, 2023, I finished assembling the final names for burials in Walnut Grove. Connie assembled the rest and took it to Lamar's after we asked the Historical Society for permission to use the book. We ordered 25 books to start with. Debbie was our main seller. Since she lives a mile from Walnut Grove, she sold many with a sign in her yard. Connie advertised the book on Facebook and got 500 hits, many of whom came from Bloomington or Indianapolis to purchase one. By May 1st, we had sold the first 25. We ordered 40 more and were told the day before Memorial Day, and were sold out the day before Memorial Day. We had made $3,400. Then the American Legion gave us 1,000. The park community had a day in July when women hosted with food and men gathered to begin building the fence. Our project is almost done. We 4 daughters of Millie believe she would be totally behind us. We dedicate our efforts toward Mother's dream.
Very nice.
That